Welcome back to Uprising. I'm Sonali Kohatkar. You can now subscribe for direct access to all our shows online at youtube.com/uprising with Sonali. Your subscription sustains the TV production of Uprising. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro over the weekend announced a reduction in the staff of the U.S. Embassy and new travel restrictions for Americans to Venezuela. The government also released a number of U.S. missionaries who had been detained and allowed them to return home. The moves are part of a new crisis emerging in Venezuela over the past 2 weeks, centered on government allegations of a new coup attempt labeled the Blue Coup. Authorities acting on orders of Venezuelan President Maduro arrested Caracas Mayor Antonio Ledesma in mid-February. Ledesma will face trial for conspiracy against the government and as a longtime right-wing politician and prominent member of the Venezuelan opposition, which last year mobilized thousands of people in street protests, resulting in the killing of 43 people. He's being held in the same facility as another right-wing politician arrested last year, Leopoldo Lopez, for overseeing a plan called La Salida, or the Exit, to overturn the Maduro government. Maduro took over from the late Hugo Chavez, a charismatic figure who ushered in Venezuela's current socialist government. New protests in the wake of Ledesma's arrest are once more threatening to destabilize Venezuela. A 14-year-old boy named Kluivert Roa was killed after being shot with rubber bullets by government police at a demonstration in San Cristobal last week. Mainstream publications in the U.S. are reporting the news with glee, with The Economist's coverage contending that, quote, Venezuela's Bolivarian regime is lurching from authoritarianism to dictatorship. My guest is Miguel Salas. He's a professor of Latin American history and Chicano Latino studies at Pomona College in Claremont, California. He's written several books, including The Enduring Legacy, Oil, Culture, and Citizenship in Venezuela, and Venezuela, What Everyone Needs to Know. He co-edited Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, and the Decline of an Exceptional Democracy. Welcome to Uprising.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us, Miguel. So the New York Times last week published this editorial whose opening lines were, quote, listening to embattled President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela ramble on for hours about an international right-wing conspiracy to oust him, it's clear that he would use any fabricated pretext to jail opposition leaders and crack down on dissent. In recent days, the government's claims have become outlandish and its repression of critics even more vicious. Miguel, was this just a fabricated conspiracy? What evidence is there that Ledesma and others were involved in a coup attempt?
We know that there has been a constant effort at destabilizing Venezuelan government and society and politics. We know that there was a historical amnesia on the part of the New York Times that celebrated the 2002 coup against Hugo Chavez. And this is a newspaper that historically has taken a very, very strident position against Venezuela. So while 43 people were killed in protests last year on both sides of the political spectrum, including police and National Guardsmen, the New York Times blames the government for these deaths, even though they occurred on both sides of the political spectrum, and yet they remain silent about the 43 students that were killed in Mexico. So again, they have a very clear position on the issue of Venezuela. So on Mexico, where there's 100,000 dead and a real humanitarian crisis, they say almost nothing. And on Venezuela, they constantly pressure Venezuela and highlight issues of Venezuela simply to mock the government. So in other words, absence of toilet paper, absence of toothpaste or condoms, or other issues are used to mock the government, when in other countries like Mexico, which are U.S. allies, people don't even have access to basic services and food. So I think we have to be clear as to what the objective of the New York Times is. Now, obviously, in the question of coups, we have evidence now, at least the government has provided evidence, that there was individuals in the military discussing. They provided evidence last Thursday, of an individual in the military that now has said that he was approached by others to destabilize the government and to stage a coup.